In these notes, we're learning about exponential growth and decay. So make sure you start off by putting your heading on here, including the assignment, page number, name, and all of that. There's the title. Please feel free to pause the video if you need to catch up. We're going to start off with a definition of exponential growth and decay, and then I'm going to give you a formula that we're going to use for some examples. So the definition for exponential growth or decay, growing means it's going up, and decay means it's shrinking. Can you write when a number, I'll use the number symbol, when a number grows or shrinks by the same percent, over a period of time. So if you have an example that says over 5 years, it goes down 5% a year, or every year it goes up 10%. That is exponential growth and decay. There is a formula for exponential growth and decay. So I'm going to write formula. I'm going to write my formula, then I'm going to bubble it in. So I'm going to write kind of big. So my formula is f of t equals, that means a function, so f of t equals a parentheses 1 plus or minus r, that goes in your parentheses, to the t power. So let me explain what all of this means. So if we're trying to find how much it's growing or shrinking, what the final amount is, you would put your a in, which is your original amount. So I'm going to point to that and write original amount. So if you had $500 in your savings bank, you would start with that. If your car was worth $20,000 originally, you would start with that. Your R is your rate, your rate, your percent. So I'm going to put rate, and then in parentheses, I'm going to write as a decimal. So if it's going up 80%, I'm first of all going to use a plus because it's going up, and 80% as a decimal is 0.80 or 0.8. If it was decreasing by 25%, I would use a minus sign, and then 25% would be 0.25. My T stands for the time. That's how long that I have this loan for, or it's decaying, or if it's going up. So I'm going to bubble this in. This is the formula that we're going to need. And we're going to do 2 examples using this formula. Before we go on, I want to point out one little thing, this set of parentheses. Inside the parentheses, it says 1 plus or minus r. So that means we're going to use 1 plus r or 1 minus r. There is a name for that. So can you write a little star and write 1 plus or minus r represents the multiplier. What I mean by that is when we have an exponential function, which we will because we have this exponent right here, this is called your multiplier, which is also known as the base. So I'm going to put base in parentheses. That's like what your exponent is attached to. So let's do 2 examples, and they are word problems. So I mean, we're going to need to write out these directions. And yes, this is part of your notes. Just having the work is not enough because we don't know where this work came from. So can you write for me? Write an equation. That gives the savings. In an account. If $250 was invested, I'm using all these words because I've seen them on the regions before. So in an account, if $250 was invested at an interest rate of 3% per year, one more part to this, use your equation to find the account balance after 7 years. After 7 years. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time to write. So we're going to write an equation based on this formula describing this situation, and then we're going to use that equation to find our answer using 7 years. So our function is going to start with f of t equals. So again, we're talking about a savings account. We have 250 that was invested at 3% per year. So our formula has to start with the original amount. Our original amount is 250, so that's going to go outside the parentheses. In my parentheses, it's supposed to be 1 plus or minus r. If we have a savings account, we are earning interest. We are earning money as we have this money in our savings account. So we're going to use a plus in this formula. So it's going to be 1 plus. Our R stands for our rate as a percent, as a decimal. 3% is our percent. So we need to change it to a decimal. So we would move it 2 places to the left, or if you don't know that, you would just take 3 and multiply it. 3 and divide it by 100. That would tell you what it would be as a decimal. So we're going to use 0.03. So 3% is 0.03. And then we're going to use our t. There's our equation. Now we're going to take this equation and find the balance after 7 years. So what we're going to do is rewrite this equation, but instead of t, our t is time, we're going to put a 7 there. So we're going to have f of 7 equals, because that's our time. Then 250 in parentheses 1 plus 0.03. And then instead of t, we have to the 7 power. Now we're going to go ahead and type that in on our calculator. So we're going to grab my calculator. I'm going to cover this up a little bit. We have 250 in parentheses 1 plus 0.03. And we use our exponent button to the 7th power. We're talking about money, so we need to make sure when we're talking about money that we're rounding to what we can use for money. So we use dollars and cents. So we are going to round this to the nearest hundredth because that's what our cents would be. Normally we wouldn't round unless it tells you to do so, but because we're talking about money, we're going to round right here. So if you look next to the 6, that is higher than 5, so this 46 becomes a 47. So our answer is going to be $307.47. So we're going to write f of 7 equals $307.47. So when we're using this formula, change your numbers, your original amount, your rate, and your time, and then you plug it into your calculator. One more, I'm going to flip to go to example B. Example B says, a fitness center has 126 members. A fitness center has 126 members. If the memberships are increasing, remember increasing means to go up. So if the memberships are increasing at a rate of 5.25% per month, what is the projected number? That means the future number. The projected number, I'll use the number symbol, of memberships in a year. One more sentence. Round to the nearest whole number. Round to the nearest whole number. So a lot of words, but the problem doesn't take us too long to do. So we've got a fitness center. They have 126 members. It's increasing, so that means it's going up. So if you want to put a little plus there to remind you. at a rate of 5.25% per month. This month is kind of come in handy. It says, what is the projected number of memberships in a year? Round to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to go ahead and write my formula first, just so I have it. So remember, it starts with f of t equals. Here's our formula. We need the original amount first. So our original amount was 126 members, so that goes in the front. In parentheses, we're putting either 1 plus the r or 1 minus the r. Since it's increasing, we're going to do 1 plus. Our rate is our 5.25%. We need to change that to a decimal. So 5.25, a quarter is 0.25. So I'll just show you where I got that from. So a quarter is 0.25. So that means we want 5.25. So if we want that as a decimal, we're going to divide that by 100. So 5.25 divided by 100. Make sure you have that 0 after the decimal. So we're going to change our rate to this as a decimal. So 0.0525 to the t power. There's our equation. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Well, our number, let's see. We're talking about this is the rate per month, and we want to know the memberships in a year. These are 2 different time periods. So the rate is what we're basing it on. The rate is per month. If we have a year, how many months are in a year? 12. So our time is going to be 12 months because the rate is per month. So our time is going to be 12. So it's going to be f of 12 equals. Now I'm going to go ahead and change my t to 12. So I bring down the 126. In parentheses, I bring down the 1 plus and the 0.0525. I'll make it a little bigger this time. And instead of t, we put 12. Because again, the rate is based on the month, and we're talking about a year of months, which is 12. So now I'm going to grab my calculator and type this in. So I do 126, my parentheses, 1 plus 0.0525, close my parentheses, and all of that to the 12th power. It says the directions say round to the nearest whole number. So if I look at this number, whole number means the number in front of the decimal. So I look past it to see if I have to round, and that is an 8. So the 2 becomes a 3. So my answer is 233. So f of 12 equals 233. And that should make sense. We started with 126. It's increasing. 233 is higher. So there's our answer. I do want to talk about quickly before we go, the multiplier, which is the thing in the parentheses. That is important in Algebra 2. So I'm going to write my next part here, multipliers, last part of the notes. And remember, the multiplier is that 1 plus or minus r. So this is what I'm referring to. I've seen on the Regents before them ask you questions like, what is the multiplier or what is the base? So I'm going to show you some examples like that. So here's example C. And can you write state the multiplier? State the multiplier. And in parentheses, I'm going to put the base. You would need to multiply in order to, and I'm going to split this into 2 parts. So part 1, I'm going to put increase a quantity by the given percent. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to state the multiplier. Our multiplier is this 1 plus or minus r. So if we are increasing, that means we are adding inside the parentheses. So here's my first example. I'm going to put a little I here. I'm going to do 10%. If that is the amount it's increasing, my multiplier, what's inside the parentheses, I'm going to put 1 plus, and then this as a decimal. Now, so 10% is just 10 divided by 100 to change it to a percent. So that gives us 0.1. So our multiplier is 1.1 or 1.10. You can write it either way. There's your multiplier. So again, the multiplier is just 1 plus the percent as a decimal. Here's the second example, 2%. The multiplier would be 1 plus this number as a decimal. So we have 1 plus 2% as a decimal is just 2 divided by 100. That gives us 0.02. If we use our calculator and add it, we get 1.02. So multiplier means you're just doing 1 plus or minus that rate. We've got 5 total of these. Here's example 3. I have 3 I's, or 4, I'm sorry, we have 4. 25%. The multiplier would be 1 plus 25% as a decimal, so 25 divided by 100. Moving the decimal 2 places is 0.25. So we get 1.25. Notice when we're increasing, all of these multipliers are higher than 1. And the last one of these, can you put 0.5%? That is not 1 plus 0.5%. This is a percent, so we need to change it to a decimal. So if I get confused, 0.5 divided by 100 moves the decimal 2 places, so it's 0.005. If we add those, we get 1.005. Last part of the notes, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I want to decrease the quantity. So I'm going to go right below, and I'm going to write for number 2, decrease a quantity by the given percent. I'll pause for a second. So we're going to use these same exact numbers again, but this time, instead of the plus, the multiplier is going to be 1 minus the number as a decimal. So I'm going to do example I, which is 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to use those same 4%. So the first one's going to be 10%, second one's going to be 2%, third one's 25%, and fourth one 0.5%. So again, when you're increasing, notice the multiplier is always higher than 1. When we're decreasing, you're going to notice the number is always less than 1. So to find the multiplier, we're going to do 1 minus, this is a decimal, and we already figured that out. That's 0.10. Well, 1 minus 0.10 is 0.9. So that is our multiplier. To find the multiplier here, we're going to do 1 minus 2% as a decimal. We already did that as 0.02. If I subtract, always relying on my calculator so I don't make an error, that's 0.98. Notice always less than 1. To find the multiplier here, I'm decreasing, so you might want to put this little plus or this little minus. If we have 25%, the multiplier is going to be 1 minus this is a percent, that's 0.25. If I subtract, that gives me 0.75, again less than 1. And to find my multiplier here, I'm going to do 1 minus this is a decimal, which is 0.005. And I better use my calculator so I don't make mistakes. So 1 minus 0.005, and I get 0.995. Again, less than 1. So what you need to know in this lesson is the formula for exponential growth and decay. That's when you're increasing or decreasing by a certain percent. And you need to know the multiplier, which is what is inside the parentheses for your formula. Please make sure you take a picture of this, submit it into Canvas to get credit.